I think this is going to be kind of special. You folks are going to be the first to actually see the closest thing to what a living dinosaur looked like. Paleontologists have been digging up these bones and marveling at these great and wonderful creatures. It's because of the fact that we are finding such incredible specimens here that it's enabling scientists and artists to really understand the animals. This piece that you're going to see here, Steven Spielberg only wishes he could get this close. All right? What went into this is the bioartisans at CM Studios in Gillespie, Illinois. That's right across the river from St. Louis. Charles McGrady and crew came to me after the PEX Rex project and asked, have you thought about recreating Leonardo? And I said, Charlie, I would love to. I mean, any artist that gets the opportunity to use all this physical scientific data will truly be able to say that they created the most accurate dinosaur restoration ever made. EM Studios jumped at it, and they created this, a $70,000 sculpture, which CM Studios, because they wanted to be a part of it and help this program out here, they've donated this. At first, you're going to notice it's a dinosaur, and it's the shape of a dinosaur. But so much went into it. We took all the dimensions. We measured every physical bone that we could see a silhouette of under Leonardo's skin. We measured this thing 6 ways to Sunday. Then we photographed all of where the skin texture is, where there's not scales, where there are scales, the size of the scales. We also looked at the bones that were exposed and looked at Roberta's bones, Elvis's bones, and bones tell you a lot from the standpoint of being able to put mass on it, muscles. So we did that. Although fossil color does not fossilize, a lot of thought went into how we painted Leonardo. And what we did is we took all the plants based off of what Leonardo ate that's recorded in his stomach, and also the pollen. And so what we did is we looked at the color scheme, and we created an actual vegetation color spectrum. And then we went to sedimentologists and determined what the river system looked like. What did the banks of the river look like? Were the rivers running muddy? Did they run clear? Did they run clean? Because that sediment tells that story. So there's a lot of real detective work that went into this. So the color scheme is based on those 2 color spectrums because animals try to blend in to their environment. So let's take a look at what Leonardo looked like 77 million years ago. Go ahead, guys. You know, initially when I first looked at it, I'm going, wow, that's big. He was little under 20 feet, 23 feet long. But when you see that tired, old, shriveled body over there that died and desiccated, you know, all you have to do is add water. And you got a life-size dinosaur. Everything has been done. This is what we've learned from Leonardo that no artist would have ever imagined. All artists in the past have represented dinosaurs as being covered with scales, just like a classic reptile. Leonardo tells us a totally different story. Leonardo has scales up here and up here, but as you drop down over the side, you get to the belly, it's leathery, and the scales stop. All right? You'll notice that these tiny, small, little scales cover the majority of the animal. The animal was mostly a quadruped walking on all fours. We know the vegetation was low-lying vegetation like magnolias, and I don't know if you've ever walked through a solid field of magnolias, but they'll rip your legs to pieces with ferns underneath. You'll notice that the large coarse scales from the elbow down to the wrist and the knee down to the ankles, they're large armor-like scales. That's what Leonardo told us. Makes perfect sense because that's what's going to take the brunt of the damage when you're walking through coarse vegetation like that. But then, as it goes down to the feet, lots of artists have portrayed the three-toed feet of dinosaurs looking like ostriches and emus and rheas with big scales on them. But Leonardo tells us a totally different story. Leonardo has scales all the way down to his toenails. Another thing too is this leg, his left foreleg, is the one that we have displayed by itself. And we just CT scan that, and we can see a big fleshy pad. We can see all the blood vessels and muscles that run underneath the skin. Now that's very exciting in itself. In fact, it's more than most scientists expected to see. Think about it. It's an extremity that fossilized, and even the muscles and blood vessels are represented there. What's that chest of Leonardo got in it? What's it got in it? We know we've got his last meal. Leonardo's got so many things to teach us. You'll notice the comb along the back. This is called a frill. We've always known that dinosaurs have had that, but now for the first time, Leonardo tells us that yes, I had a frill. And it wasn't made out of bone, wasn't made out of keratin material like the beak or the toenails. It was cartilage, fleshy cartilage with little scales on it. You folks have gotten to see the very first dinosaur that is as accurate as it can be because of the fact that Leonardo is recognized as the world's best preserved dinosaur, and all of that physical data from that original fossil went into creating this. So therefore, it's reasonable to say that this is the best reconstruction of what a dinosaur looked like 77 million years ago. Any questions? It's kind of strange looking at it, isn't it? Imagine 5,000 of them walking through Malta. All I can say is you'd have to watch where you stepped.
How old is he compared to Elvis?
Well, Elvis is an adult, okay? And if you looked at Roberta's an adult too. And if you actually held Roberta's skull up, Roberta's going to be much taller, and she's going to have much more of a Roman nose like Elvis's head over there. But Elvis and Roberta are going to be 3 feet higher at the back and 10 feet longer. CM Studios would like to create life-size fleshed outs of Elvis, Roberta, and Peanut. And they would like to put them in a herd just before you enter the new museum, where you pay your ticket and you have to walk through the herd of Brachylophosaurs to go into the exhibit hall. That would be cool, to walk among giants. So
Who is the natural predator of this animal?
an early forerunner of Tyrannosaurus rex, you can see him on top of the work chamber there, called Daspletosaurus. He grew to be about 30, 35 feet long, not much smaller than T-Rex. But, and a lot of people mistake that sculpture there of a T-Rex. But we had them running around here. We have a lot of duck-billed dinosaur bones with their bites on the bones. He is 23 feet long, 10 feet high. Most paleontologists find they put skeletons together out of bone beds, out of many different specimens that come together to make one specimen. Look at this, they're all together. Elvis is all together. Leonardo's all together. Peanut is pretty much all together.
Which one is Peanut?
He's the little one right next to here. So, yes.
Do I understand that there's hope of seeing if you had a 2-chamber or 4-chamber heart?
Well, certainly. If it's reasonable to assume if we have excellent soft tissue preservation on the outside of this animal, then why wouldn't we have good preservation on the inside? And if that's the case, a CT scan, because heart muscle is very dense muscle, and it actually has a better chance of fossilizing than a shoulder muscle. And Leonardo's shoulder, yeah, that's right, because if we can determine if Leonardo has anything of his heart fossilized in his chest, and we actually take that CAT scan file out and look at it and rotate it around, we can even rapid replicate the heart and the organs and hold them in our hands without actually opening Leonardo up. We can hold plastic models. But if we see that heart is got a 4-chambered heart like ours, then absolutely, positively, we will be able to say that dinosaurs and their kin were warm-blooded like us, not cold-blooded reptiles. And there are very few smoking guns in paleontology, absolute positive things that we can say. We used to be able to say, hey, dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago. But no, scientists are saying that birds have a link to dinosaurs, and in actuality, birds are a form of a dinosaur. So we can't even say they're extinct anymore. So Leonardo is already telling us a lot about him and his family of dinosaurs, but also he's giving us a clear picture through his last meal as to what his world looked like 77 million years ago.
Well,
Yes?
you might be able to tell if he had more than one chamber in his stomach, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you bet. This might be just a lot of things have not changed a lot here in Phillips County. This is a Cretaceous cow. Okay? I told Howie Hammond last night, I said, Howie, not a lot has changed, but thank God you don't have to brand these things. So, yeah. No. That's way out there. Way out there. I don't care how much information we get off these specimens. What we are learning is that our specimens are changing the perception of what paleontologists considered fossilized. Leonardo's CAT scan of his left forearm, the CAT scan, if any of you saw it during the Wine and Dino, the ends of the bones are jagged. And I said to the radiologist, I said, well, that's not right. They're round. Everything's complete. I can see them under the skin. And finally, an osteologist came in and said, you know why you're not seeing it? It's because you've got the CT unit set at a level where it only recognizes fossil bone. The ends of the bones are not fossilized. They're still original material. And we saw cartilage. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. We've only scratched the surface. Yeah.
Is there a possibility of getting DNA from that?
Well, Mary Schweitzer, who extracted the soft tissue from the T-Rex here, actually last summer she did it, but it was just announced. Mary wants to sample all of our dinosaurs because she believes that they are just fabulous candidates for retrieval of possible DNA, because she knows that our bones aren't completely fossilized. There's the original bone in it.
What is that substance there?
That is keratin, like your fingernail. Yeah, and it's self-sharpening. When the animal actually opened his mouth, and he could open it up pretty good, and he would put his mouth over a branch, because they weren't grazers, they were browsers. And they would actually latch down with that horny beak and pull and strip off the leaves off the branch. And then they'd pull it into this grinding area. And possibly Leonardo will tell us if dinosaurs had a crop like a bird, okay? Because Leonardo has this fabulously three-dimensional, fully fleshed out throat. I mean, this thing's so real that they even put the opening for the back end. Any other questions? All right, well, enjoy. Yeah, you bet.
Initially, no one was willing to believe, it was too good to believe that Leonardo had gut contents, stomach contents, intestines. That's just too wonderful. Not in our wildest dreams did we ever hope to find a mummy with the contents of its stomach and gut. Just the first time I saw it, I realized that Nate was absolutely right. It's full of its last meal, its last meals, probably a couple of days. It's just full. And everyone who's come here and looked carefully, like Dr. Chin from Colorado or Dave Eberth from Alberta, will come to the same conclusion. Nate's right. Leonardo is a transparent, see-through duckbill. In a way, it's still alive. You can see the digestive process going on, and that makes it one of a kind. But we didn't have the smoking gut. Didn't actually have a dinosaur preserve where you could see the results of this dental pounding until Leonardo. Now you got Leonardo, you got a mummified stomach, you have a mummified intestines, you have a mummified lower intestines, you have a mummified rectum, almost, mummified throat. And the little windows into the mummy show you that, by gum, it was a pulverizer. Those jaws were doing the work that in the 1820s, the Reverend Buckland thought such teeth would do. You can actually see the pulverized plant parts. You can see bits of conifers just chop, 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 chop. You can see bits of woody tissue pulverized and shredded. And it just fills the stomach and the intestines. So it's like you have a living dinosaur that's transparent, made out of plastic. You can see it chewing, swallowing, digesting, absorbing, excreting. And by gum, this is a hot-blooded hay burner. This is a bird-like, gigantic herbivore. There's an old theory, it goes way back, 150, 160 years, that plant-eating dinosaurs are not just big lizards. This is not an iguana grown large and running around in the Cretaceous. This theory is from the 1820s, that far back, and comes from teeth. Duckbill teeth look a lot like iguanodon teeth. Iguanodon's the first plant-eating dinosaur, the first vegisaur. They had jaws, they had teeth, they had some of the body. And the Reverend Buckland in Oxford looked at the teeth and the body and said, these teeth are too complicated to be a cold-blooded animal. These teeth were wearing against each other. The uppers and lowers were grinding the way a cow grinds, the way a deer grinds. So this very, 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 very old theory looks at duckbill teeth and sees a hot-blooded level of metabolism. An animal has to eat all the time, has to chew all the time, that has to digest all the time. Why? Because the body furnace is stoking. It's producing a lot of body heat. That's very old theory. Back in the 1940s and 50s, people forgot about that argument and looked at a duckbill as a great big, low metabolism, slow-moving swamp lizard eating soft food. The evidence hadn't disappeared, it's just people weren't thinking about it. Now you got Leonardo, every part of the animal, the feet that look like giant bird feet, the very big, complicated gut that looks like an ostrich gut or a turkey gut, the teeth, as was pointed out in 1820, the teeth look like deer teeth or cow teeth for chewing plants rapidly. The bones grew very rapidly. Hot-blooded animals can grow far more quickly than a cold-blood. The presence of duck-billed dinosaurs, sort of like this one's in the high Arctic in the Cretaceous, when it was pretty cold. Not as cold as now, but pretty cold. These guys could go north and browse on plants through the snow. I think the evidence is pretty overwhelming. I also called it the dinosaur renaissance because if you go far enough back, the idea that such a beast was in fact hot-blooded was textbook, way back to 1820s and 30s. So it was a heresy in the 1980s, but it was a renaissance of a very old idea. And Leonardo then, well, Leonardo to me looks like the Pietà, a piece of high Renaissance sculpture, something Michelangelo would have chipped out of the rock.